Today is February 19th, 2020. My name is Don't Know Jack. Welcome to the Don't Know Jack Show. You know, today was supposed to be a different show, I'm not going to lie. I've been doing this research for the past week, and it was going to be on liberalism and the negative effect on black families, the black community, and really communities in general. And this topic, I've come to realize, is not going to be well served in today. It's going to take more time, and it's almost becoming a documentary, because there's so much information that needs to be told when it comes to the negative effect on the black family and the black community by way of liberalism. So, but there's still a lot of topics that need to be discussed, and we're going to go over those today. But yeah, the episode today was supposed to be on liberal hypocrisy and the negative effect on the black family, the black community, and really communities at large. So anyway, yeah, welcome back. A lot of things going on, you know, and one of the things that actually ties into that story, an amazing story that I was reading yesterday, was a story about Dwayne Wade, his son. And if we take a look at this article right here, better yet, let's just listen to the interview ourselves.
It is wonderful to have Dwayne Wade here with us. First of all, thank you so much you're here to talk about the documentary, and you got permission from Zaya for us to have this discussion.
Yes,
that you started with Ellen, that just got so much reaction. How is she handling all of this attention and people that are talking and now know her story?
Yeah, she's a kid that wants to focus on school. Right, today she has a mock trial at school that she's stressing about, and she's like, Dad, I came out to everyone because I wanted to be me. And I'm thankful that I'm able to be me, but I need to focus on my trial at school. You know, you guys handle that, but she's focused, but I think for her and myself and my wife and our family, we love the fact that she doesn't have to hide who she is.
She seems wise beyond her 12 years, because when you hear more of that conversation in the golf cart, and you said that she helped you and the family have a better understanding and helped you with this. How was she able to do that?
Well, she is our leader, and I think when the conversation we had, the one thing about it with parents is have conversations with your kids. You know, Zaya early on knew two things. She knew straight and she knew gay. But Zaya started doing more research. She was the one who sat down with us as a family and said, hey, I don't think I'm gay. And she went down the list and said, you know, this is how I identify myself. This is my gender identity. Right? I identify myself as a young lady. I think I'm a straight trans because I like boys. So it was a process for us to sit down with our daughter and find out who she is and what she likes, and not put something on her, because as parents, we put our hopes and we put our fears on our kids.
Right.
And with Zaya, we decided to listen to her, and she's leading us along this journey.
You didn't have to put this in the documentary.
Nope.
Why did you, and what was that family discussion to reveal this way?
Well, I struggled on how much I wanted to talk about in the doc. I actually didn't talk about it a lot, but I knew if I put it in the doc at all, it would be a big conversation. And we struggled with that from, yes, we understand that our daughter's 12 years old. We struggle with what people would say about a 12-year-old making a decision about her life. But we also know our child, right? And so we sit back and we say, you know what, as parents, it's our job to sit back and figure out and find the information that, you know, we can. And we sat down together as a family. We've reached out to as many people as we can. We've researched as many things as we can to try to help not only our family but other people in this journey and along the way. Because one thing we do know as a family, we've been through so many different things that other people and other families go through, and they say, thank you guys for speaking out on it. Thank you guys for being the face and the voice of this, because we can't. And that's what we're trying to do. We know it's other families out there that's dealing with their kid, finding themselves and learning who they are.
And what is your advice to a parent who is struggling to accept their child for any reason?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and act like we have all the answers. I'm not going to sit here and act like before our child came home and set us down that we was not ignorant parents when it comes to the world. We're like, when I say we're learning from our 12-year-old, we're literally learning from our child. So the biggest thing is have an open mind. Go out and research. Ask your child, ask other people questions about this, because this conversation is real. Our 12-year-old deals with this. This is her life every day. This is no game to us. We're about protecting her heart. We're about protecting her joy. And to do that, we have to support them.
And how do you protect her? Because I think some parents are... They want to accept, and they're understanding, but as a parent, you want to protect your child, and as much support as you have received, there has been criticism as well, and for your daughter to even admit that, and your son, that beautiful posting and saying, referring to they. So how do you handle those people who are less than supportive?
Well, our family, we love, right? We're imperfect, but we love each other for who we are and whatever we're going to become in life. I think we understand that we have to protect each other. We get amazing support from people. We get a lot of hate from people. But along the way, we inside together as a Wade family, we have to be the ones that have each other's back. And for us, it was important that Zaya understood that her family has her back. And it's just from the world and what people would say and what people think. But she's known that for 9 years, since she was 3 years old.
She's known since she was 3.
She's known since she was 3 years old. And along this way, we've asked questions and we've learned. But she's known 3 years old.
Did you know early on?
I knew early on that I had to check myself. That's what I knew. I knew early on that I had to ask myself questions, right? I've been a person in the locker room that has been a part of the conversation that have said the wrong phrases and the wrong words myself. And as I got older and as I watched my daughter grow, I had to go and look at myself in the mirror and say, who are you? What are you going to do if your child come home and say, Dad, I'm not a boy, that I'm a gay boy, or that I'm a trans girl? What are you going to do? And for me, that was my moment of real. It's like this is not something that I grew up knowing that I've played with a teammate or having a friend that came out to me as gay, as trans, as anything. My daughter was my first interaction when it comes to having to deal with this conversation. And hopefully I'm dealing with it the right way. Some people think I'm not, but inside our home, we see the smile on our daughter's face. We see the confidence that she's able to walk around and be herself. And that's when you know you're doing right.
That's right. I hope she does well. That mock trial you said she had?
The mock trial today. She's sweating right now.
Okay.
It's real.
I hope that she does well. Thank you. Thank you and bless you. And we're going to have you back in the next hour because your documentary is brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll be back with Dewayne in the next hour. Come on back.
So as you can see, 12-year-old girl Zaya, Dwayne Wade's daughter, now wants to identify as a girl, not as a boy, as she was born, wants to identify as a girl. So, I mean, it makes for a discussion, if anything. The name of this show is Don't Know Jack Show. So I'm not trying to say that I have the answers, but it leads to a bigger discussion on what is purpose of relationship, what is being happy, what is considered, what am I trying to say? How does this help or strengthen a family? Or, what does this do for a family? And I'm talking about for Zaya, by the way. It just leads to, there's a bigger discussion going on, because where are these influences coming from? And this is something that I'm plan on getting into, with this. I guess it's becoming a documentary. I don't know. I'm not making that, that's not set in stone that it's going to be a documentary, but it's becoming, with the research that's being done, it looks like it's going to become that. But what is the influence on a young child when it comes to their purpose? You know what I mean? What is that? Where is that influence coming from? I'm looking on the liberal side of things, and I see a litany of rights, whether it be transgender rights, gay rights, animal rights, abortion rights, black rights, people of color rights. There's a lot of rights, and it leads to a lot of questions on what are these rights necessarily. How do you call these rights? Other than, the right to life, and you have the right to live, just like in our Declaration, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But when it comes to other rights, it starts becoming a big question, because is there a larger agenda at play when it comes to identifying these rights, and is the advocacy of these rights leading to decisions that would otherwise not be made by young children if it weren't for the emphasis on these rights, that are being advocated for. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, but I do know this, that there is a large breakdown in the family, which is leading in turn to a large breakdown in society. What if that is coming? What that's coming from? We're gonna have to dig deeper into and figure out. But numbers just don't lie. Prior to 1950 or Civil Rights Act 1964, we can go back and show an overwhelming. I'm only talking about the black family right here, but around 80-something% of households were mother and father, and now it's flipped. It's close to 90, in the 90 percentile are single mother households in the black community. And this lack of kind of appreciation for a family or a household with a mother and father and the benefits that can do for a family is dwindling. You know what I mean? So we'll have to see. We'll have to see about that. But I want to go into another story. This is a different story about a Steven Spielberg has a daughter. I don't know. I'm going to have to look at the article here, where his daughter is now going into porn. And let's look at the article and we'll talk about it after. So here we have an article's entitled Mikaela Spielberg, Steven Spielberg's daughter, comes out as porn star. It says, maybe she should have phoned home first. Or as a question. Michaela Spielberg, 23, the daughter of legendary filmmaker Steven Spielberg, 73, and his actress wife, Kate Capshaw, 66, revealed Wednesday that she is starring in her own solo porn videos. The Nashville, Tennessee resident also announced to the U.S. Sun that she hopes to score an exotic dancing gig as soon as she hustles up her state stripper's license, which is reportedly quite difficult to obtain. The E.T. director's child says she told her parents about her close encounters of the X-rated kind over the weekend via FaceTime. Michaela admits she suffered with anxiety during childhood and going to boarding school in her teens led to eating disorders and depression, but she doesn't blame her famous folks. It's not my parents' fault, says Michaela, who was adopted by Stephen and Kate as a baby. They couldn't have known. The self-proclaimed sexual creature told the outlet as she grew more confident in adulthood, she got really tired of not being able to capitalize on my body, and frankly, I got really tired of being told to hate my body. The self-proclaimed chunky pixie has previously teased her foray into honeypotting on her Instagram account, Vandal Princess, or at Vandal Princess, which has a follower count that's jumped from just over 1,000 to more than 7,000 since Wednesday afternoon. And I also just got tired of working day to day in a way that wasn't satisfying my soul, she tells The Sun. I feel like doing this kind of work, I'm able to satisfy other people, but that feels good because it's not in a way that makes me feel violated. Her dad did not immediately respond to the post request for comment. Michaela tells the outlet that she no longer wanted to be dependent on her parents or the state for that matter. This isn't like an end of the road or I've hit bottom choice, she says. This is a positive, empowering choice. I realize there is no shame in having a fascination with this industry and wanting to do something that is safe, sane, and consensual. Still, the fledgling adult entertainer vows she won't have sex on camera with anyone else out of respect for her fiancé, Chuck Pankow, 47. Michaela previously had videos posted to Pornhub under the stage name Sugar Star, but temporarily yanked them until her permit application is approved by Tennessee's Sexually Oriented Business Licensing Board. She claims her parents are intrigued by her new career path and hopes they will be proud of how she's bounced back from a drinking problem that almost took her life a couple of times after she turned 21. I actually think that once they see how far I've come from the bottom I was at a year and a half ago, they're going to look at this and go, wow, we really raised a really self-assured young lady, she tells The Sun. And right here it says, Michaela says her large chest, which she hated growing up, is the moneymaker. Michaela isn't the first Spielberg child to announce their entry into the world of genre filmmaking this week. Her brother, Sawyer Spielberg, 27, and his debut role in the feverish horror movie Honeydew. The flick is set in New England, where strange cravings and hallucinations befall a young couple after seeking shelter in the home of an aging farmer and her peculiar son, according to The Hollywood Reporter. Meanwhile, Michaela updated her Instagram Wednesday afternoon with a public message, "Since my new fans mean the world." I guess that's it. So there you have it. That's the story. Michaela, adopted by a couple of big names in Hollywood, lived a life growing up in Brentwood, California, going to private schools, and was suffering some depression and, drinking problems, and she wants to make her own way. She has a fiance, and this is empowering. She has some body shame issues, and she sees this as empowering to her. It once again, is there a lack of respect towards the family, and what is leading to these numbers in the breakdown of the family? is a question that we're going to have to ask. And like I said, we're going to go into that in this story that I'm documenting. But these are the stories that are leading to the questions to be asked about what's going on in society. One side, we can easily say, take it at face value, and we could just easily say that this is empowering to these individuals, whether it be Zaya Wade, whether it be Mikaela Spielberg, that they are being who they want to be, that they're empowered, they're free, and, and we should just accept it, and that part we should accept, because as far as not, having any ill will or hatred towards these individuals, I totally agree. That is not what I'm advocating or talking about at all. What I'm talking about is there a deeper question of this liberation that they're feeling, this exhilaration? Is there something deeper, and is there something in society or things in society that we need to look at that's leading to these thought processes? So, yeah, it's, I do not have the answers. I'm just asking questions. That's what I said on the first episode of this show, and every episode thereafter. We're asking questions. We're just trying to figure it out like everyone else, so we'll see. I'll tell you, we'll take a break, and when we get back from the break, we're going to talk about a little bit of these pardons, that's going on. A lot of people have issues with these pardons, but I'm going to give my take on it, and I'll see you on the other side of the break. All right, welcome back to the show. Here's a list, like I was talking about earlier, of the pardons and commutations that Trump gave yesterday. Now, a commutation is the person remains guilty of the crime. It does not remove from their record, but they're let out of prison with time served, and they get to go on and enjoy their life as a citizen, albeit with a criminal record. So, former governor of Illinois, Rod Blagojevich, he was commuted. Okay. A pardon, on the other hand, is your civil rights are restored fully. So even if you weren't in prison, as Edward DiBartolo was not, he has all his civil rights restored, though. So, former owner of the San Francisco Niners, he was pardoned. Ariel Friedler, and what he did was he was prosecuted. What did he do? Pleaded guilty to concealing an extortion plot by a former governor of Louisiana. So, and Mr. DiBartolo was prosecuted after he agreed to pay $400,000 to former Governor Edwin Edwards to secure a riverboat gambling license for his gambling consortium. So, Ariel Friedler was pardoned. Technology entrepreneur, pleaded guilty in 2014 to conspiracy to access a protected computer without authorization and served 2 months in prison. Tyneese Nicole Hall, her sentence was commuted. She was convicted on various drug charges, according to Lubbock, Texas. And the evidence at trial showed that Miss Hall's residence was used as a stash house for drugs by her boyfriend, who was the main target of an investigation, according to court documents. The police found large quantities of crack and powder cocaine and loaded firearms in her apartment. A pardon was granted to Bernard Carrick, He was the former New York police commissioner. 10 years ago this month, Bernard Kerik, a former NYPD commissioner, was sentenced to 4 years in prison after pleading guilty to 8 felony charges, including tax fraud and lying to White House officials. Mr. Kerik, who was a close ally to former Mayor Rudy Giuliani, took responsibility for his actions. A pardon was granted to Michael Milken. He was the billionaire junk bond king and a well-known financier on Wall Street in the 1980s and 1990. He pleaded guilty to securities fraud and conspiracy charges and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Though his sentence was later reduced to 2 years, he also agreed to pay $600 million in fines and penalties. A commutation was granted to Crystal Munoz, who was found guilty in 2008 of conspiring to possess with intent to distribute marijuana, according to a petition filed by the Criminal Defense Clinic at the Texas A&M University School of Law. Ms. Munoz, who was sentenced to nearly 2 decades in prison, drew a map that her friends used in a large marijuana trafficking operation. Wow. Okay. Commutation was granted to Judith Negron, was sentenced to 35 years in prison in 2011 for her role in orchestrating a $205 million Medicare fraud scheme as the owner of a mental health care company in Miami. Ms. Negron has served 8 years in prison, and her prison warden described her as a model inmate. A pardon was granted to Paul Pogue. Paul Pogue was the founder and former chief executive of a large construction company in Texas. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation and was ordered to pay $723. What the hell? I'm gonna assume $7 million in fines and restitution for filing false income tax statements. A pardon was granted to David Safavian, the top federal procurement under George W. Bush. He was a top procurement official under George Bush, and he was sentenced to a year in prison in 2009 for covering up his ties to the lobbyist Jack Abramoff. He was the former chief of staff at General Service Administration, and he was convicted of obstruction of justice and making false statements. A pardon was granted to Angela Stanton. Angela Stanton, an author, television personality, and motivational speaker, served 6 months of home confinement in 2007 for her role in a stolen vehicle ring. Her book, Life of a Real Housewife, explores her difficult upbringing and her encounters with reality TV stars. So, that's it. And I want to... So, those were the pardons and the commutations that were granted by the president yesterday. And there's been a lot of talk about, the president only pardoning or commuting sentences of his friends, or he's doing it to benefit his campaign. And I'll tell you the truth, I don't know one way or the other. But the bigger question to me, or the bigger issue, is I personally don't want to get involved in being the thought police. Start questioning people's motives. If there's no bribe, if the president wasn't paid personally in order to grant a pardon or commute a sentence, I'm not going to try to get into the president's head of why he did it, why he commuted the sentence or pardoned these people. It could be because they had families at home. maybe it could be anything. I don't even want to start speculating. So to me, this story is a non-story, but it's been a big story for the last couple days. And my take on it is, there's no crimes committed in doing so. If nobody's been bribed or extorted in order to grant these, then I don't see the problem with it. Or else, like I said, you start getting into being the thought police and the questioning the motives of somebody. And if somebody wants to campaign for the president or give money to the president after they're pardoned or commuted because they believe in this campaign, I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem. People have free will to do as they choose. It's a free society. So to me, this is just a non-story, but I wanted to touch on it because it's a big story in the news. What else is going on in the news? There's a debate going on. We got, apparently, Mike Bloomberg is in the news, being the first debate today in Vegas. They're having a debate right now, and when I was looking at it last, he was getting he was just getting destroyed on stage, destroyed. But his history with debate or public speaking has not been great. He's got numerous gaffes, so that's not unexpected. But other than that, that's all I really wanted to touch on in today's show. Not much. Like I said, the show is really supposed to be something totally different. But I did want to touch on those few subjects, and we are going to go deep into really the true motives and the true objectives behind liberalism and all these rights that they claim to fight for. I would like to dig deep and possibly reveal an ulterior motive behind, liberal policies and what is advocated by liberals. So I would like to get a deep dive into that, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to put this together. Maybe a couple weeks. We'll see. But it needs to be a deep dive because a lot of these things that are going on can be related back to slavery. A lot of identical scenarios as far as using using black people to kind of cover for degeneracy. A lot of these things can be pointed back to slavery, which I plan on pointing out in this story. So, that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and tune in next week on the Don't Know Jack show. It was wonderful talking to you. See you next week. Bye-bye.